Well, let's go through the homework and just make sure we are um, understanding everything that I want us to be understanding. Okay, so here is some information regarding passengers or just people, including crew members, aboard the Titanic. There were a total of 2,201 people on the Titanic, and so I asked a bunch of questions regarding survival rate and gender. Okay, so these first ones should have been at least the first. Oh, I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping we all got these correct. Okay. So what percentage of people on the Titanic died in the crash? Okay, and so we're looking at a total of 1,491 people divided by a total of 2,201 people. Okay, and so we type in 1491 divided by 2201, and I get 0.677. Okay, so I'm going to say 67.7%. Yeah, I think you should keep at least, I mean, so if you round it up to 68%, that's acceptable. I would say, but it's, you know, it's better to keep an extra. I'm keeping to 1/10 of a percentage. If you want to say 67.74, that's also fine. Okay, okay. You know, I mean, so technically, so 67.74. This is more detailed. That's even better. You know, 60.
Don't round it off.
Well, you're going to have to do some rounding, right? Because the calculator shows like 9 or 10 digits, okay? You probably don't want to write out 9 or 10 digits, okay? I guess the question is, you know, if you buy something at the store, do you say I paid $43.24, or do you just say I've paid 43 bucks for it? Or do you, you know, what do you say, okay? Now, in some things you don't really care, but other things I think you would care, right? If they started just rounding off your paycheck to whatever, I think you'd get a little bit annoyed, right? So you know, so again, you know, it might be a judgment call as to how much. Correct. I mean, you know, there's not one answer for every single situation, okay? So in some situations, you want as much precision and accuracy as possible. Generally, when it comes to money, you want to be as accurate as possible, okay? Because people get upset over you know, even just a few cents with money, right? You know, right? You go to you see people fighting over a 20-cent coupon at the store. You know, it's like, well, 20 cents is not a big deal, but, you know, they'll say it's the principle of the matter, right? So, but then other things we kind of just round off and say, you know, how far is it from California to New York? We'll just say 5,000, you know, 4,000 miles or whatever, you know. Do we care that it's, you know, the exact number? You know, we're more willing to round. So I can't just say, oh, because it's about people on the Titanic, you need to keep this many decimals, okay? So there's always a bit of a judgment call there, okay? But yeah, any of these I would say is acceptable. If you kept more decimals, also acceptable, okay? What percentage of people on the Titanic were women? So the fraction that we would do would be 710 divided by 2201, okay? So really the important thing is you got the, I'm so sorry, I messed up. Okay, just making sure you guys are paying attention, right? Okay, women 470 out of 2201, okay? So the important thing is that we're getting the fraction correct, okay? Okay, see, that's good. You were at least all awake. Sometimes in my other classes, I'll just say I'll write things and it's like completely wrong and nobody says anything, and then like 10 minutes later I catch my own mistake and I'm like, why didn't anybody say anything? And I'm just getting blank stares back. So okay, so here I get 0.2135. Okay, so we can say 21.35%, 21%, 21.4%, whatever you want to, any of these. 21%, 21.4%, okay? As long as we're getting this fraction correct, okay? What percentage of women died? Okay. 127 women died. There were a total of 470 women. So we're going to write 127 divided by 470. Okay, so I go 127 divided by 470, and I get 0.2702. So 27, I'll keep 4 decimals, 2702, or you can just write 27%, 27.0%. Any of these are fine. Okay. What percentage of those who survived were women? Okay. So how many people survived? 710 people total. And of those, 343 were women. Right? 343 divided by 710, 0.4831 if we, so 48.31% if we keep 4 decimals, or, at any other, 48%, 48.3%, whatever. I shouldn't have to write the answer 3 times out, but here I am. Okay. So are we, 4 here? I think these ones are good. And then the fifth one, what percentage of those who survived were men? We're going to write 367 divided by 710. And 0.5179 and 5169, 51.69%. Okay, 51.7%, 52%, 51.7%, whatever you want to write. Okay. Okay, so I think these first 5 are good, right? I think we're 5 for 5, batting 100, or batting 1,000. Sorry, not 100. And let me see, county June 22. 1. Okay, and then so the last one we'll do on its own slide here, and number 6. Let's just okay. What was a woman more likely to survive than a male? That's not good form. Should be, was a woman more likely to survive than a man, or a female more likely to survive than a male? But whatever. Huh? And just keeping things parallel, right? Than a man. Okay. All right. So it says be sure to calculate 2 percentages. Okay. And so the 2 percentages I wanted you to calculate was what percentage of women survived versus what percentage of men survived. Okay, now, and I saw some of you guys use other things But these are the ones that we should be using to answer this, right? Because when it says, was a woman more likely to survive, we're asking, what was the percentage of women that were survivors, okay? It's not what percentage of survivors were women and what percentage of survivors were men, okay? That's not the, so let me write this over here, okay? So I'm going to say do not use, and I know some of you guys did this, okay? What percentage of survivors were women? And I know they sound similar, but we have to be able to distinguish. Okay, so don't use these. We want to use these. What percentage of women survived? Because we want to know, is a woman more likely to survive? Not, is a survivor more likely to be a woman? They sound similar, but they're different. Yeah, don't use these, okay? And I'm trying to. I know, and yeah, looking through the homeworks. I mean, I still gave you full credit for doing the homework, but I want to make sure, because next week is our final exam or our test, and I won't, can't give you points if you use this, okay? At least you'll get the other questions right, but this one will probably be weighted a little bit more, and you want to make sure you're using the correct percentages. Yeah, okay. Well, so I think maybe we'll just do more practice and just make sure we're answering it correctly. Okay. So what percentage of women survived? So we're going to do 343 divided by 470, okay? Okay. So, if you were a woman on the Titanic, okay? You watch, oh, what just happened here? Okay, hang on, let me just save this and go back and open it. Something happened here. Okay. Aboard the Titanic, they said, women and children first, right? Or at least, they portray that dramatically. And there's probably accuracy to that portrayal of prioritizing women and children first because the numbers reflect it. But so let's see. So 343 divided by 470, we see that aboard the Titanic, 0.7298. Okay, so about 73%. So I'm gonna keep 0.7298. If you round it, it's going to be 73 or 73.0%. Okay. So 73% of the women, so there weren't that many women on the Titanic, okay? Only 470 out of over 2,000, but 73% of them survived, okay? Okay, now when you look at the men, though, we do 367 over 1731, okay? 367 over 1731.212, okay? 21.2%. Okay. And these men were called cowards at the end. I don't know what, but no. Everybody, nobody wants to die, right? So what percentage of women survived? We see 73% of women survived, 21.2% of men survived, okay? And so here we see women had a much higher survival rate. So the answer is yes, a woman is more likely to survive. Now I want to contrast that to what would happen if you used these things, okay? What percentage of survivors were women? We actually answered this in parts 4 and 5, right? So what percentage of survivors were women? We did 343 divided by 710, and it was like 48.3%. And what percentage of survivors were men? We got something like 51.7%, right? Okay, so this doesn't tell the story. This just tells us, okay, now we're looking at the survivors. Some are women, some are men. Okay, there's a few more men. This doesn't tell us that, if you're on the dock or whatever, on the boat that picked up all the survivors, and you just look at the people, you'd say, oh, well, half are women and half are men, or something around there, close to that. It doesn't seem like there's a big difference. But when you realize that when the Titanic took off, and you see that, the vast majority of people on the Titanic were men, okay, it was something like, close to 80% of people on the Titanic were men, and then when it comes down to the survivors, only 50%, 51% were men. You realize, oh, you know what? They put a priority on the women to get them to the lifeboats and things like that. So we want to make sure we're answering using this fraction. And I know they sound similar, but so, I want you to get in the habit of reading this carefully and looking at what we've got here, okay? Are there any questions here?
No.
What percentage of survivors were women? So this we actually answered in numbers 4 and 5. What percentage of those who survived were women, and what percentage of those who survived were men? We answered those questions already, but I can write those fractions, right? 343 divided by 710, and 367 divided by 710. Okay, but we don't want these. Don't use these, because that doesn't tell the story. This over here does, okay? And so we can see from just the data alone, we can imagine somebody yelling out women and children first, right? Okay. So if you made a mistake on number 6, be sure you study this, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at the other part. Okay, so we're looking at the state of Montana, and we're splitting up the state into just 3 general regions: the West, the Northeast, and the Southeast. And then we just ask people, do you identify as Democrat, Republican, or Independent? Okay, and then so we'll do 7 through 12, and then 13 and 14, those are the, so I think 7 and 12 were fairly straightforward, and then 13 and 14, again, required a little bit more critical thinking. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do our total columns first, okay? So what, you just add across, and what do we get for the total West? 68, and then 54, and then the Southeast, what do we get? 69, and okay, 191 for the total over here. What about going across the rows down here? 73, 78, 40, right? Okay. All right, so then we ask, what percentage of the surveyed Montana residents are Democrats? Okay, and so here we would say 73 divided by 191. Okay, and then we get a percentage. .22. Okay, and of course if you round off to something, that's fine. What percentage of the surveyed residents are Republican? 78 over 191. 40.83. And what percentage of the surveyed residents live in the West region? 68 divided by 191. 0.3560. Did I mess something up here? Number 8, 40.84. 78 over 191. Oh yes, you are correct. 40.84. I'm rounding incorrectly.
Oh, are we supposed to round it off?
So I rounded to right there. You know, if to the nearest whatever. You know, if depending on how you rounded, your answer might be a little bit different. Yeah. Okay. All right. What percentage of the surveyed residents live in the Northeast region? Okay. So then we do 54 over 191. 28.27. And what percentage of West residents identify as Democrats? Okay, so now we're looking at West residents, and we're asking what percentage identify as Democrats. And so we have what? 39 out of 68, right? 68 West residents, 39 identified as Democrats, 0.5735. And number 12, what percentage of Northeast residents identify as Democrats? 12 out of 54. .2222. Okay. In California, we traditionally divide ourselves into Northern California, Southern California, and maybe Central California. But they're saying more demographically we should be splitting ourselves to coastal California and inland California. Because it used to be that Northern California was more liberal and Southern California was a little bit more conservative, but now it's more so coastal California is more liberal and inland California is more conservative. That's but anyway. Okay, so these are all good for everybody. Any questions here? Okay.
What's the difference between this question, number 11, and probably the question on where you said what not to use? Is that kind of like similar?
So this one should just be very straightforward. What percentage of West residents identify as Democrats? You look at the total number of West residents, 68. Of those, 39 said they were Democrat, and so you just do 39 over 68. Okay. Now 13 and 14, which are the ones we're going to do next, you have to interpret the question and figure out the appropriate sub-questions to ask, right? So from the main question, you've got to figure out two percentages to calculate, and we just want to make sure we're getting the correct two percentages for each of those. Okay, so let's take a look. So we'll do 13 first. I know what's going on here. Okay, it's fine. All right, so it says, is someone from the West more likely to identify as Democrat than someone who is not from the West? Okay, so let's do this one first. Is someone from the West more likely to identify as Democrat as someone not from the West? Okay, so what is the percentage or calculation we should do for this there's two things, right? We want to know what percentage of what are what, right? So I'll ask you, do we want to ask what percentage of West residents are Democrats, or do we want to ask what percentage of Democrats are West residents?
Are West?
So what percentage, so we want to ask what percentage of blank are blank, right? So do I put West over here and Democrat here, or do I put Democrat here and West over here? So I'm going to put what percentage of West are Democrat. This is the one I want, okay? And again, I'll put no on what percentage of Democrat are West. Okay. So is someone from the West? So maybe, see the order. Yeah, I guess we just have to read the sentence carefully, because I can't just say based on the order of this question. Is someone from the West more likely to identify as a Democrat than someone who is not? Okay, so we're going to say what percentage of the West are Democrat versus what percentage of I'm going to have to just say non-West residents, okay? Because there's two, and we don't want to just say Northeast or Southeast. We want to say everyone else, okay? What percentage of non-West, which includes both the Northeast and Southeast, non-West are Democrat? Okay. So what percentage of the West are Democrat? What's our answer there? We would say 39 divided by 68. Okay. 0.5735. So we're going to write 57.35%. Okay, so in the West region, 57.35% identifies Democrats. Is that okay? Okay, now we go for the non-West. Okay, so how many people are in the non-West total? We're going to have to do 54 plus 69 people in non-West regions, right? Okay, so 54 plus 69, 123, 123. And how many are Democrats? 12 plus 22, 34. Okay, and so for the non-West region, our percentage is 34 out of 123, 27.64%. Okay. Wrong. I hate to use the word wrong. That's not what the question was asking. It was just asking West versus someone who is not from the West. Okay. But you know, yeah. So the reasoning is totally fine. Okay. But if we're getting nitpicky about what the question is asking, then it should be done this way. But because what would you say? What if the numbers were different? And the answer is more for the North, more Democrats in the West than the Northeast, but not the Southeast. Okay, so one was yes and one was no. How do you answer the question overall? Okay, you have to combine them. Yeah. Question?
Is that supposed to be 24? It says Democrat.
34.
34, right? 12 plus 22 make a total of 34 Democrats in the Northeast and Southeast regions. Okay? Is this okay? Okay, so then let's take a look at the last question, number 14, and maybe you probably already have your answers on your paper, but maybe you can just check and make sure that the answers that you have written down are the answers that you want to use. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute. Let me just erase this red line here. Okay, so the last one is someone from the Northeast region more likely to identify as a Republican than someone who's not from the Northeast. So go ahead and just make sure what you have written down is what you want. Okay, so first off, what percentages do we want to calculate? We want to say what percentage of blank are what? Okay, so what word should I put in here, and what should I put in over here? Yeah, what percentage of the Northeast are Republican? And we're going to compare that to what percentage of what? Non-Northeast are Republican. Okay, so notice I'm asking what percentage of this is Republican and what percentage of this is Republican. So it's not like Republican versus Democrat over here. It's Northeast versus non-Northeast. Okay, so what percentage of the Northeast is Republican? That answer is 30 out of 54. Okay, 30 divided by 54, and we get, whoops, 55.55555. So I'm going to just say 55.56 or 56%. Okay, and what about the non-Northeast? Okay, so we have a total of how many people in the non-Northeast? 68 plus 69 gives me what? 137. And right, I'm looking at. Am I adding something wrong? 68 plus 69, 137. Non-Northeast people total. And then of those, how many are Republicans? 17 plus 31, I have a total of 48, right? Okay, and so this answer is going to be 48 divided by 137. And we get 0.35036, so 35.04%. Okay? And so our answer appears to be yes, right? Northeast, 56% are Republican. If you're not from the Northeast, only 35% are Republican. And so the answer is, it seems like the Northeast is more Republican. Right? Okay? Just like, is someone from Orange County more likely to be Republican than someone from LA County? And we would look and we'd say, what percentage of Orange County is Republican? What percentage of Los Angeles County is Republican? And we'd see there's a greater percentage of Republicans in Orange County than Los Angeles County, okay? We would not ask, it's not correct to say what percentage of Republicans are from Los Angeles County versus Orange County. Okay? Because if you do that, chances are you're going to see more Republicans in Los Angeles County than Orange County just because Los Angeles County is bigger than Orange County. Okay? So even though Orange County has a higher percentage of Republicans just because it's a smaller county than LA County, if you look at the sheer numbers, you're going to probably find more Republicans in LA County than Orange County. Okay? So we always want to ask what percentage of this is this, and you gotta identify it correctly as such. So far, so good? Okay, I'm gonna